Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Are You Afraid of the Dark Season 7 Episode 1, The Silver Sight. So this was the very first episode of the Are You Afraid of the Dark that I actually liked back in the day. The second one was like The Quiet Librarian or something like that. And then I liked the revival of season 2 and season 3. Other than that, I simply just can't get into the show. It's just not for me. I guess if I would have grown up with it, I probably would have, but I just can't get into the show. And I've tried. Like, I tried to watch all of season 1, and I just can't do it. It's like it would start off really cool, but then the ending always like fell flat to me. However, with all that said, so when it came time for me to ever watch this show many years ago, like I think I watched it sometime after college, season 6 and 7 were the only ones I could find on YouTube at that time. All the other ones, for whatever reason, I couldn't watch in my country. And so in season 6 and season 7, we see a brand new Midnight Society. It's been about 3 or 4 years since that of the original first airing of it and stuff. And so this was the second like revival. And then the third was in 2019 with the rebooted series and stuff. I like to think that this episode, which I thought and assumed it was the series finale. It should have been because of the way it's formatted. However, this right here served the template for the rebooted revival in 2019, where the members of the Midnight Society actually are the ones that are like engaged in the supernatural stuff and have to solve the mystery and solve the day. I like that format a whole lot better than just a bunch of kids sitting around the woods and telling ghost stories and stuff. However, the concept of them just sitting in the woods and telling ghost stories is very intriguing. It just wasn't enough to catch my attention, but this was. And we see the return of Gary, played by Russ Hall, which I know a lot of fans were probably excited to see. And this episode is a 3-parter, and it's pretty dark, I have to say. Like, it's dark, it's like spooky, it's chilling. Like, there were things that just kept happening left and right that would just made me go, holy crap, this is like a kid's show and stuff. And for the most part, it doesn't fall flat. Like, it pretty much, keeps you hyped from beginning to end. There are a lot of twists and turns that, like, I did not see coming. Like, the little Wraith boy, like, is he good? Is he bad? And then it's like, is General, like, Candle, is he good or is he bad, And we also get an introduction into the very first Midnight Society, which is really cool. This really should have been the series finale of all things. It just set it up in a way that would have been satisfying instead of an opener to the newest season. However, for whatever reason, after season 7, it's like things just didn't like, I guess people didn't like it, or maybe they didn't like the new cast. Because the new cast consists of Quinn, who's like, the troublemaker at school, but he's also a smart guy. There is, let's see, who else? Vogue, that's how you say her name? She's just the tomboy. Like, it's funny because they have characters similar to the older generation of this. You have Tucker, who's the only person who comes back from the other seasons, but he's much older now. And of course, he's brothers with that of Gary. Then you have Megan, who's like the rich girl who hates being in the woods. And then it's the other one. Is his name Andy? Hold on. Yeah, Andy. He's like, the nice guy and everything. And he always gets picked on by Quinn and Bob. And the setting is a little bit different for the Midnight Club. It's like now they have like couches and chairs and other stuff to sit on and stuff instead of just like wooden logs. And but like yeah, but like I said before, we get an introduction into the original Midnight Society, which is really neat. There's Bruce, who I'm assuming is like the leader. There's Lane, Donna, Evelyn, and I believe that might be it. Oh, and also Gene, who is the grandfather of that of Gary and Tucker. And so it's cool to see the younger versions of them. And it's also cool to see, well, the older versions of the ones that are still alive. Actually, I think there's only one that's still alive. But basically, the plot of this is that the original Midnight Society found this kind of like silver sight type thing. It's basically just a silver ball, like a gumball machine type thing. And at first, it appeared to grant them wishes of things they wanted. They summoned a demon of all things. Like, can you believe that? So it's like, this was like back in like what, like the 50s or something like that. So a group of kids, they find this thing and they summon the demon and then it grants their wishes. And being greedy, they all use it to their benefit. Problem is that like at first it gives you riches and rewards, but then it has a downside effect and it costs these people like lots of harm. And the little silver sight thing, the demon, he's kind of like a trickster. Like at first you don't know if he's good or bad. He's just like this little wraith kid who dresses back like in the early 1900s and stuff. And some of the things that the original Midnight Society used it for were really like some you can imagine, okay, yeah, but other one was just kind of like disgusting and everything. And so when all the bad stuff started happening, Bruce he decided to hide the artifact. The reason why Gary knows of this is because he had a nightmare. His nightmare was he went back to the woods where the Midnight Society hangs out, and he asked the old timer to come back and like, tell some stories with them. And then he sees the little Wraith kid as like a demon, and he sees his grandfather asking for help. Well, he wakes up, and next thing you know, he gets a letter from his grandmother Aggie. Gene had died. Something scared him to death. And he left kind of like these instructions or whatever. And that what led Gary to knowing about the silver sight. So he heads back to the Midnight Society to talk to his brother Tucker. And they informed a new group, which some of them don't want to like participate in because they say they tell ghost stories. They don't want to have to run after and chase after a ghost and demons and stuff like that. But then they all decide to like do it. So apparently they have to track down the original Midnight Society, which is gonna be hard because most of them have died. Well, actually all of them have died and stuff like that. So for one, so they split up in groups. And what I like about this is that in the first episode, you see everything happening, but then you see the group rendezvous, and when they rendezvous, certain things have went on that we didn't get to see, like that with Quinn and that with Megan. And so it's like, well, what the heck happened to them? And what's cool is that in the second episode, it then takes us back in like, kind of not necessarily the past, but kind of like it shows the event of what happened to Quinn and what happened to Megan. And then in the third one, it's back to the present day where it gets to like follow out the story. And I like that format. It was really cool. So basically, it's like this. Tucker and Gary, they go to not Jennifer, but General Lane Candle. And he's a very stern veteran and stuff. You have to call him General. You can't slouch in front of him. And he's in a wheelchair. And so basically, He was one of the original members of, like, the Midnight Society. Now, apparently, Bruce left behind clues to how to find the silver site. He left it in a recording on, like, a record disc. And it's been broken, and he left clues, and he left each piece with that of one of the original Midnight Society. So after talking to him and everything, he tells them, like, come back and stuff like that. So at some point, when they talking to the group, their grandmother Aggie, somebody broke into her house, and you can see them breaking into the house. It's very scary and everything. And I was like, holy crap, man, like, what's going on? So they rushed back, and the person had left, and they was looking for the piece of, like, the record that gave, like, the clue to the silver site. So when they head back to the general's place, he is not there, but it's actually Tucker who goes, because Gary's, like, attending to his grandmother. So when Tucker goes, each member of the Midnight Society, they meet the Wraith Boy, and he kind of helps them out, and he warns them of, like, bad things that could happen. So you don't know if he's, like, good or bad or whatever. So when Tucker's there, all of a sudden, all of, like, the knight armor and, like, samurai armor and all this other stuff comes to life, and it attacks Tucker. So he has to fight them off, which is kind of cheesy, but cool in the same way and everything. So after he does that, he sees the record, and then all of a sudden, Quinn comes in, and he takes a portrait off the wall. And Tucker's like, dude, you can't take that. And he's all like, it doesn't even belong to him. So what exactly is he talking about? Well, we find out in the next episode. Oh, and by the way, the general, when he had the silver sight, he used it to be a war hero, and he also used it to cause harm to a man named Vince. Vince was never a member of the Midnight Society, but he loved a woman in the Midnight Society named Donna. And so him and her dated, but then all of a sudden, he was an athlete, but all of a sudden something happened that caused him to get into, like, an accident and caused him to have a limp. This is what the general did when he used the silver sight on him. And when Vince was recovering in, like, the hospital, all of a sudden Donna left him for the general, broke his heart. And he drew a portrait of Donna and he gave it to her. But then that's the portrait that's inside the general's house. And so when Quinn comes there, the man works and I guess lives or whatever in, like, a junkyard and stuff. And he has the record piece, but he doesn't want to give it up. Now, while Quinn is there, he is being attacked by, like, a guard dog, which is weird because Vince said he doesn't have one. So he tells Quinn that I'll give you the piece if you break into the general's house and get me back my portrait, because it's the only thing I have left of her other than this little record thing. So this is when, like, Quinn goes there, he takes the picture and he gives it back to that of Vince. But then all of a sudden, somebody on the chain breaks on one of the cars, and it runs right into the office of where Quinn and Vince are at. Quinn, like, pushes Vince out the way, and then they are literally saved. It's literally like a little crawl space in the corner of the wall, which they had to hide in because everything else fell down. So somebody is looking to kill them and get their hands on that record piece and stuff so they can get the silver sight. Now, Donna used the silver sight to be, like, the most glamorous woman there is. Megan is tasked with finding Eleanor. Eleanor has died, similar to that of, like, Donna and stuff. So Eleanor, she used it for wealth, become, like, the richest woman there could be. And they had, like, a nice home mansion and everything. So when Megan is going there, she can't find their house. The house is now gone. And the little Wraith kid leads her into the sewers. And because, that's where the house used to be at. Turns out Eleanor's family, they her kid or her son and his family, they now live in the sewers. Basically what it is that, like, after the mom lost all her money and her wealth and fortune in the mansion, he is in like denial. He thinks one day they will like rise back up and be famous and rich again and all this other stuff. So he took his family and they just live down in the sewers of all things. His wife, his daughter, and his son. The daughter doesn't say nothing. But what's crazy is that she's played by Emily Vanderkamp, who is best known for the Revenge show, and she was also in the MCU. Now the son, Todd Finnell, he was in Goosebumps, and the one where it's like Deep Sea or something, like Deep Trouble. That's what it was. And so, like, the Gregory family, which is, Donna's, like, family and stuff, her son, Mr. Gregory, he keeps talking about how they used to be rich and this and that. But then Megan brings up the silver sight. And this is when he becomes furious and he kicks her out their home in the sewer. But, like, the son tells her to come back later when the dad calms down and all this other stuff. When she heads back, the family is no longer there. They have been chased out. Why? Because the general is down there. And the general is looking for, like, the record piece. He threatened to call the police on the Gregory family for living down in the sewer. When she leaves, all of a sudden, something happens. I think she almost get hit by, like, a train, by that little ghost wraith thing or whatever. And so, like, but then she able to get a message from the son of the Gregory son, and he led her to the record piece. So now that just leaves that of, like, Andy and Vogue, if that's how you say her name. So Andy and Vogue, they are searching for that of Bruce, but nothing is coming up. But it leads them to an amusement park. They go to the amusement park and they find his brother. Bruce used it for, like, to own an amusement park at a very young age. But then once he saw the corruption of that of the silver sight, he hid it. And then he died. He fell off the Ferris wheel, which was his favorite ride. And the thing is like, his brother's all like, there's no way that he would have jumped. He thinks his brother was pushed, but pushed by who? Was it one of the other kids, or was it that little demon thing? And so, like, it leads them to, like, a well. And when they're in the well, Vogue has to go down there because she's the smallest and the youngest. And she's able to find, like, a brick with the record piece in there. Once they head back to the Midnight Society, they play the message and they look at the message on the back of the tapes because there's written messages on there. Once they're able to figure out the clue, they head back to the amusement park. And so when they're there, they're looking for the silver sight. But then they realize it might be on the, I think the horse Ferris wheel thing, whatever you call it. The, whatever that thing is called. Because they looked at the clues and blah, blah, stuff like that. Anyways, but they don't know which horse that has the silver sight. But then it says, all the eyes are brown. So they have to look for an eye that's not brown. They find a blue one. And it's just blue paint and it's on the silver sight. And so all of a sudden, in a really weird way, like, in order to make it illuminate or whatever, they all have to touch it. And so when they have it, the little Wraith boy is there and he tells them, this thing can eliminate your enemies and everything. You just have to say this person is your enemy and then eliminate it. All of a sudden the general comes back. We have already seen the ruse of him being able to walk. See, here's the thing about Donna and the general that I didn't mention. When Vince was dating her and all that stuff and she left him, she got in a car accident with somebody else. She died and the other person became paraplegic or whatever. That was the general. but we see he's now able to walk. And so, like, it makes you think that the general is the one going around harming people and all this and that, and wants to use the silver sight for himself. But he warns and tells the kids that this thing is evil and blah, 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 blah. The Wraith boy shows his true colors and is all like, the general is your enemy. Just say he's your enemy and get rid of him and everything. So Gary, holding on to the silver sight, decides to turn it on the Wraith boy and say that is the enemy. It causes him to turn demonic and he just dies and everything. All these souls are then all freed. And so, like, the silver sight is no more. The silver sight was literally just destroyed. Gotta say, man, this was like a pretty cool thing. The ending could have been a little bit bigger, but it was nice just the way it was and everything. And it really reminds me of the format of like the rebooted series that started in 2019. I almost said 9. But when it comes to the rebooted series, the Carnival one, I don't like that at all. It just doesn't mesh well, and some things don't make sense. Like, they do take the format of the original one where it's like, they pick out a new kid, and they make them go in secret to the woods and this and that. And they have to tell a scary story to get initiated. And they cover their faces, very similar to the very first episode of the original series. However, the problem with that is that, there's a carnival that comes in town, it kidnaps a kid, people forget it's there, all of the stuff like that. And so they have to remember. But the problem thing is the Rainmaster, he's the one who made a deal with some demonic thing. And basically a kid back in like 100 years ago got hurt at the carnival, and he's all like, hey, how do you like the power to make people forget that the carnival is here so that never happens again? But what doesn't make no sense is all the people who work at the carnival, are they immortal as well? And then also it's like, they was there when they made that deal with the demonic thing. So why aren't they affected and stuff like that? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the second and third season are very, very good. Now, season 7 of the Midnight Society, not Midnight Society, but Are You Afraid of Dark? Season 6 and season 7 are not on Paramount Plus for some bizarre reason, but season 1 through 5 are. Season 3 of the rebooted series is not on Paramount Plus for some bizarre reason. So it's gonna be kind of hard to find this Silver Sight episode. I'm pretty sure it's not even on YouTube no more. So you're gonna have to do some soul searching. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.